Smile.
Dave, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. So, you are a man in a Power Woman's group.
I love it.
I know you do.
It's my sweet spot.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Tell me more.
Yeah. Well, I love to break into the women's groups because, as you know, I was raised by my grandmother and my mother, so never really had a father, so never met my father. So, but I get to break into women's groups sometimes because of that, but more because of the way I talk about my Nana and all the leadership lessons she taught me. So I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me and helping me. I guess I'm breaking some kind of a ceiling today.
Watch it. Watch that verbiage there, Dave. Be careful. You're treading on a thin line. I know that's right. So, yeah, you're our first man.
Wow.
Which I don't use that term lightly either. There are boys and then there are men.
Okay.
And so, you're Coach Dave. Coach Dave, you're a business coach.
Uh-huh.
You came into my world a few months back. I have had a real estate coach for 3 years now. But there are several sides of coaching. And my world got opened up several years ago to that. And I've had the pleasure of getting to know you and learn about your world as well. So tell us a little bit about who is Dave and what has your journey looked like and what do you do?
Well, I'll give you the 2-minute version. But I mean, I grew up a very poor kid, raised by my mother and my grandmother. And I learned, and I talked about this in the first chapter of my book, on how to persevere for myself very early in life. In the book I write, around 10 years old, I realized that for the most part, while I had my grandmother and my mother, I was on my own. And for me to get out of where I was at, I had to persevere in everything I did, and I had to set goals, and I had to have dreams. And so I always did. And I got out. And I pretty much accomplished everything I really wanted to accomplish through perseverance. It wasn't easy. I hit roadblocks all the time. I stumbled. I fell. I got dirty. I made mistakes. I tried to learn from my mistakes rather than accuse other people or blame other people or blame circumstances. Mm-hmm. And I just grew from it. As I did that, I constantly challenged myself. I've got a huge competitive side to me, but I always, back then, I didn't compete. I tried to compete with myself. I kind of intentionally did that. And I don't know where I got that from, to be honest with you. My grandmother used to say to me, my grandmother was a huge baseball fan. And one of the only things I even have left from my grandmother is I wish I had it with me, is a little miniature bat. And actually I do have it. I can grab it. Hold on one second.
You're getting up. So Dave is
from, so here it is.
Okay. So Dave, you're from New York. You're from the New York area originally.
Originally from New York. I'm speaking to you from my place in Charlotte, North Carolina right now.
Yeah. Hence the accent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not fully, it's only been 20 years. I'm not fully Southernized yet.
No.
But they do call me Damn Yankee because I stayed longer than 10 years. So, yeah, so my grandmother was a huge baseball fan. This is one of the only things, besides a lot of memories and lessons, that I have from my grandmother. And it's from the first baseball game she ever took me to. And one of the things she used to say to me, and I'll never forget this, and I talk about it in my speech about my leadership lessons from my Nana, is, Dave, you're going to have some great days and you're going to have some not so great days. But just every day, get up and keep swinging.
Yeah.
And that works for all of us, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
I mean, don't you get up some days and go like, I don't feel like swinging today, right? But you got to get up and keep swinging because no one's going to swing for you.
No, you got to put yourself in the batter's box and give yourself the opportunity.
And she was also I'm telling you these stories because they have what built me. She also was a big fan of movies that had like, not war movies, but the old movies where the cavalries were on horses and stuff like that. And so she it's funny, I heard somebody quote this in one of their books recently too, and it made me think of my grandmother. She said to me, David, people always wait for the cavalry to come rescue them. Be your own cavalry. So don't wait. And so I always did that. I always went out and persevered. And so, hey, I went into corporate America. I'll give you the short version. How I got there. This is not important. I was in international banking for 21 years. Had a great opportunity to retire just over 12 years ago. So now you guys you're calculating my age now. So I'll make it easy for you. I'm 56. But I decided at that point I wanted to do something on my own. I did not want to work for corporate America anymore. And so I started a coaching business. I went to some of the biggest and best in the world and got mentored by them. Tony Robbins, John Maxwell, Jeffrey Gitomer, a few other people. They've become not only mentors, but friends to me today. They help me all the time. And so I'm just grateful to do that. I do a lot of speaking. I love coaching. I do a lot of executive coaching, a lot of business coaching. We met through Keller Williams because I've had an ongoing relationship on the business side with Keller Williams. And so, you know, hey, I love what I do. I mean, it's one of those things that
it's not work.
It really just never feels like work. It's so awesome. And so for those of you out there that are listening, you know, if you're in your own business, I hope you love it. And if you don't love it, really take a good look at what you're doing and say, can I love this? And are the things different that I can do to really fall in love with what I do for a living? Because chances are there are. If you built it and you're an entrepreneur and you're doing something that you really like, chances are just love is the next level.
That's it.
Sometimes we don't know how to go there. So in a lot of my coaching, I kind of help people get there.
Right. And in coaching, you ask questions to help people see their opportunities or their next steps.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Coaching's a lot about questions, not so much telling.
No, it's never telling. And so Dave, you got into coaching, and did you always have a business coach that helped push you and lead you?
I've had a coach for the 12 years I've been in this business. Even when I was in corporate America, I got heavily involved in Tony Robbins coaching. And so I had a coach from the Tony Robbins team for several years. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I believe in it. I have coaches for everything. I mean, I have a fitness coach.
Right. You have a trainer.
You know, I'm part of a community. I'm part of a fitness community. I believe in communities. Mm-hmm. I'm part of a men's group. You know, I'm part of a national men's group that is a community. We hold each other accountable. We respect each other. The groups are formed around integrity. Right. All of those things that just make us better people and help us realize things that may sometimes seem distant to us. Mm-hmm. And all of that brings it closer.
Absolutely. I've been just in awe of the women in this group and how they have built one another. And they are continually building their businesses. They reach out and say, my business is growing, we're hiring, here's the opportunity. And then before we know it, they've hired from within the group. We have women reaching out that are saying, I'm looking for a new opportunity. Here's what I have to offer. And before we know it, that woman is hired from someone within the group. I personally needed a new assistant. My former assistant found another opportunity that I am grateful that she found and had, and she's soaring now. And then I found my new assistant from within the group. It's become a huge source of connectivity and opportunity for women in business here in Little Rock that are helping build one another and grow their businesses. And so, Dave, how can women locally within a group help connect and build one another and push through? What are the questions they need to be asking of themselves?
I think the number one thing is, so that's congratulations, because it sounds like you've built a great community, and we just need more of that everywhere, right?
But they build it within themselves.
Right.
I try not to, that's not the credit for me. It's the women in the group that are doing it organically.
Well, it takes a leader in all of it. So,
thank you.
My hat's off to the entire group. So, to answer that question, I think we have to ask ourselves some self-awareness questions when we're part of something, right? Whether we're part of a group or a team or a community, whatever. I think we always have to ask some self-awareness questions of us. And that's one thing I do heavily in the front end of my coaching, is really help people get to know themselves deeper than they do now, right? And so it really is, how am I showing up? Ask your questions like, how do I show up in this group, right? We all have what I call a game, right? What's my game?
Right.
Do most people know what their game is? Most people don't, but I can tell you the community can tell people what their game is.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so you have to be open to that. In my men's group, we are so open to the game. When people in my group see you're on their game, they'll call you on it. See, that's your game. That's not the real authentic you, it's your game. And so how do you show up, right? The other thing too is, are you fully authentic? You know, each of us should have an authentic leadership style. Each of us should have our own authentic personality style. It don't have to be anything like anybody else, just like our DNA, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so we should feel free to show up like that. So do you feel freely showing up like that? Are you a vulnerable member of the group?
Right.
Right.
So, I know you understand this, and it's taken a long journey for me to understand this. And it's through our vulnerability that we will have extreme connectivity. And if we allow ourselves to be that vulnerable self, we will have connectivity at a very high level.
Right.
And so if a woman or myself then say in the group, listen, here's my struggle. Please help me through this. What do I need to be asking myself? How can you help me grow? Then others will pour into you at a high level.
Right.
And then that's how growth occurs.
Mm-hmm. And,
right.
and it all speaks to humility, right?
Oh,
vulnerability and humility are hand in hand. You know, I haven't always been as vulnerable as I am. It's a journey for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a journey for me for a long time.
Right.
There were people that used to talk behind my back all the time and go, man, that guy's got some serious walls up.
Well,
right?
People are always going to talk.
But they were right. Honestly, Claire, they were right.
Mm-hmm.
And it helped me because it helped me to see, and a coach helped me with that, to see that and become more vulnerable and open up. And what is just amazing I poured into my life since then.
Yeah.
And my message to your group would be that if you're not there yet, that's okay.
Yeah.
Boy, find someone to help you become more vulnerable, because it's priceless when you get there. Yeah. There's a lot of fear involved in getting there for people, right? Fear,
women struggle with that in a large way, Dave. We wear a lot of masks.
Yes.
We wear the corporate mask. We wear the mom mask. We wear some wear the country club mask. Some wear the entrepreneur mask, and then there's the school mom mask. I mean, we carry a lot. We wear a lot of masks, and then to take off all of those masks and be the authentic self, and who can I trust, and who can I relax around, and it's a lot. To take that off and be your authentic, vulnerable self that's asking a lot of a girl. Okay, Dave? It's hard.
It really is.
It really is.
I read a book recently called The Mask of Masculinity. It's by Lewis Howes.
I'm sorry. You're talking guy talk there, and we don't have any masculinity in this group, Dave. So you're going to have to reframe that for me, and you have to have the mask of femininity, Dave.
But the interesting thing is, at the end of every chapter, he writes a paragraph or so for women who are dealing with men that are wearing these masks. And as you brought up the masks of women, I started thinking, my God, somebody needs to write a book on that, because it would be awesome. And it would also be awesome for men to be able to read that, so we could understand you better, right?
Don't challenge me, Dave.
Well, I think I just did. I challenged you or somebody in that group. If not, I'm going to write it and I'll use a stage name or something.
Oh, no, you should totally credit me, and I should get your proceeds. At least half of them for helping you create the idea.
Yeah, but we all do wear masks, and they're hard to take off.
They are.
We keep our masks on because of fear, usually of the external sources that may look at us differently or talk about us or think about us differently.
Right.
Really, it all comes down to fear,
yes.
right?
Yes, but breaking through that fear, we can have fear or we can have faith, and breaking through that fear and then seeing the growth that can happen through having the faith of letting go.
Yeah. Well, there's so many acronyms out there for fear, right? You hear that of, frig everything and run, right? Or what is, false expectations appearing real.
Right. So
what about if you use this one though? Face everything and rise.
Oh, I like that. I like that so much.
Right? So forget the other ones. Face everything and rise.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Yeah. I use a yes. I'm going to tell you that. Yes, ma'am. That's a yes, ma'am, Dave. That's a yes, ma'am. Because I don't say yes, sir much.
I'll take it.
Just don't. Yes, right. That's a yes, ma'am. So, Dave, coaching is an investment. I mean, I'm sorry, I will put on a wall here. I'm not going to say how much I pay for coaching, because it's definitely an investment, and some may just drop their jaws at how much I pay for that. So coaching is definitely an investment. However, the more you invest in yourself, it's also the more you invest in your business and your future growth and your future opportunities. And that's what I've truly learned in regards to what my production has shown. The more I've invested in myself, the more I've produced. And then the investment has way paid for itself. And so I know that because I now track my numbers. I never did that until I entered the singlehood, as I call it. And so it's truth. And so there's your vulnerability, sir. And so anyways, what? You wanted it. And so anyway.
I like the terminology.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's a clarism. There's a lot of them, darling. Yeah. And so anyways, it's totally an investment. And so, I mean, I have participated and have, seen coaching programs, whether they're group coaching programs from, $250, and then you can hire a personal coach to come in and coach your, your team per se, all the way to customizing a program for your entire company, upwards to $20,000. I mean, it can be some high dollar stuff, but like I said, there's a huge range of opportunity for you to invest in yourself. Right. So talk about the investment.
Well, you answered one of my questions because I was going to ask you, do you feel like you get a return on your investment? Obviously you do. That's an important piece of the coaching model, but it's not the most important piece. What I say to people is, we always want it, especially if we're in a group, we want other people to bet on us, right? Mm-hmm. But what I always say to people around coaching is, you've got to bet on yourself first. Mm-hmm. If you bet on yourself, right?
Why will anybody else?
Other people will come around. That's why I don't do free work, right? I do free work for nonprofits. You know that. We've had that conversation. Mm-hmm. That's my part of giving back, and I do a lot of that. But when it comes to business, free doesn't work, right?
Right.
And so you've got to look at things that you are investing in now, right? And that can go from a $4 latte at your favorite coffee place every day. Mm-hmm. It can be how much you're investing in the car you drive every month, right? With your payment and your insurance and upkeep and all that. It can be anything, but in essence, I love the car thing because, coaching is a vehicle to help people go from where they are now to where they want to go, correct? Just like that's how the word coach came about. Because remember the old coaches back in the day, they would take people from where they wanted to go to where they, and it's the same thing. And so coaching is a vehicle. If you know where you are now, which a lot of the coaching will help you really cement your reality, right?
Right.
I use an acronym in coaching called GROW: goals, realities, options and strategies, and the will, right? Yeah. A lot of my coaching is around that acronym. And so the coaching is a vehicle. Mm-hmm. How much are you willing to invest to go from where you are now to really where you desire to go?
Right.
And so there's different investments levels. For me personally, a lot of coaches, you can go to their website and buy their coaching. That's not my style. I want to talk to the person. I want to see if I can establish their needs. I want to see if I can establish what their budget is and what they're willing to invest in. And then I don't pull anything off the shelf. I design something specifically for that person.
Right.
Because I think that's me truly living in integrity with the people that I work with. And so various levels, we don't have to talk dollars here. If any of your audience is ever interested, all they need to do is contact you. You know how to get a hold of me, and I'll have the conversation with them.
Right.
But I would just tell anybody, don't expect free, because there really is no value in free, people. There really isn't.
Well, I think it goes back to, do you know your own value proposition? And if you do you know the value proposition of what you have to offer? And then if that's the case, do your employees and those that you are providing a service to know your value proposition? And if they do, what is it? And then are you willing to invest in yourself? If you're not willing to invest in yourself, then why would anybody else invest in you? Yeah. If they're not, then you may need to reevaluate your business.
Yeah. I spend on average between $60,000 and $100,000 a year investing in myself. And I can tell you none of that is in a coffee shop. And none of that is in an automobile.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
It really is leadership development, personal development, coaching, meeting with mentors, things like that. And that's just kind of my budget for it every year. Do
Well,
I get a
I'm
return
going to
on
tell you,
investment?
Dave. I'm going to tell you, Dave. $100,000 a year for investing in myself is a little much for me right now. I mean, just on my power mom status of just me and the kids, that's going to overwhelm me quite a bit, and it's going to overwhelm a lot of mamas.
Oh yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not suggesting that. I'm just you.
But I am going to break down your little coffee analogy here. So
Okay.
just a minute. So if you, which I don't do the Starbucks, I'm not going to give my money away to anybody like that. I'll just go to the Keurig and take it out. So, but if you buy a Starbucks for 30 days, which is in a month, that's $120. And so, which is to me throwing your money away, but that's your own business. And so, but $120 times 2 is $240. So there's a group coaching program for $250 that you could totally invest in yourself and have 8 weeks worth of investment in building your business, which could far pay for some Starbucks, darling.
Absolutely.
I mean, really?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just choices.
Absolutely. Choices and expectations. And what is your expectation of your business, yourself, and your family?
Mm-hmm.
And then what are the choices you're willing to make that happen? You've been a pleasure, Dave, as always, and entertaining. Thank you so much for being the first male. I appreciate a little testosterone every now and then.
Thank you, Claire. It's great to be here. And thanks, everybody, for putting up with the first male, I guess.
Absolutely. Our pleasure.
I didn't have any masks on today.
Yes. Thank you for that, too. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.